thank you, Vanessa. It's a real pleasure to be here with you and with the students today. As you said, I'm the provost here at the Masters University. I get the pleasure of working with an extremely talented and exciting group of faculty. I am just really pleased to have the opportunity to interview them. You may find on our website a number of other interviews that we've done, but today we have with us Professor Dave Larsen, chair of our Kinesiology and Physical Education department. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity, Dave, just to kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little about where you're from and how you got to the Masters University, what the Lord's done in your life to bring you here. And then we have a couple questions to go through.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Hopewell. Well, this is year 20 for me, so this is exciting. My two older kids have graduated from here. I have two that are currently here. I've been overseeing sports medicine in addition to being a faculty member in kinesiology up until now. Prior to working at Masters, I worked at a community college down in South LA for 9 years and worked at a physical therapy clinic and did a variety of different things there. And graduated from Long Beach State with a master's degree there in kinesiology, and undergrad is at Cal Poly Pomona. I took a year off in 1988 to come here and do the biblical studies 1-year program, diploma in biblical studies, and just a wonderful time back then in 1988 between my sophomore and junior year, when I really didn't know what I wanted to do as an undergrad at Cal Poly. That really directed my focus, deepened my walk with Christ, and never knew I'd be back here. Here we are, 30 some years removed from that and teaching in kinesiology, but thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dave. Something that our students will learn as they investigate the Masters University is we have a lot of just really diverse academically and professionally qualified faculty, and so it's a real pleasure. So one of the things that I like to do in these sessions is I get it's sort of like the free questions time for me. So I get to ask anything that's on my mind, and my hope is that we ask questions that are interesting to you, our faculty, and that way our students get a sense of who you are and what you're thinking about. So the topic on everybody's mind, right? What is the topic on everybody's mind these days is kind of the pandemic situation. And so we've been talking a lot about that in some of our interviews. And, I just thought, given your background in kinesiology, physical therapy, these kind of things, what is going on with people's health during the pandemic?
It's really interesting because the response is polarized. You have people that go out and buy because they can't go to a gym, and they completely buy out Walmart and whatever with kettlebells and dumbbells, and really during the pandemic have gone to an extreme fitness, and their focus on health has never been more. And then sadly, like I said, it's polarized. People go the other way and seek other coping mechanisms, whether that's, look at alcohol sales as, exponentially gone up and things like that, where people are seeking unhealthy, means of coping with the pandemic. So it's just kind of interesting, but health, wellness, for a lot of people has gone, into a much greater focus because there's maybe a little bit more time on their hands. They're working remotely, and so they're seeking to, when we're not as active, not moving around as much, to try to stay as active as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think immediately of kind of down the road what our students might face in that, entering those fields. So my daughter, for example, is a freshman here at the university this year, as we are recording this, and she is looking towards pre-physical therapy, potentially heading into chiropractic work. And she and I have had conversations about the fact that, we have a fairly aging population in the US. We have people living longer thanks to medicine, but the body does wear out. And so if people get real excited and start, exercising a lot more, how could this kind of stuff maybe impact the future industry of physical therapy, kinesiology, sports medicine.
Right, and certainly exercise benefits our metabolic profile. It certainly benefits, as far as our cardiovascular profiles and all that. But unfortunately, with that, we get the overuse injuries. We get the knees and the ankles and the low backs and things like that may become sore, may become injured as a result of improper training and conditioning and all that. And like you said, it's an aging population, and so that actually there drives a lot of this healthcare industry need. So we look at whether we're looking at PA or PT or occupational therapy, a lot of different professions, the need for practitioners, clinicians is skyrocketing because of exactly what you said. While we're hopefully healthy and all that, we are finite. So we wear down a little bit, over the years. But and that's where a physical therapist or whatever practitioner, chiropractor, really comes into play and can come alongside and encourage. That's a big part of our major, is learning, well, what's the biblical worldview of pain and suffering, and how do I come alongside and encourage someone? It's all in the Lord's will. Part of the gospel is pain and suffering. What does that look like? And that's certainly part of our curriculum.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We have a future hope, right? But we also know we live in a world that's on its way down. The clock's running out. So, what a great reminder, especially for our students tuning in, that this is how we teach our curriculum. It's integrated with. It's not independent of the truth that we find in the Word of God. So, talk to me a little bit. You said you're also help out with our sports medicine here at the university. Talk to me about what people in your industry, in that part of your industry, are talking about for athletes returning after maybe a couple of months of pandemic pause.
Right. It's really interesting talking to other athletic trainers in the conference and really reading from week to week NFL injury reports to NBA injury reports. And I guess I'm an injury nerd in a sense. I'm reading those things, hearing about them and presenting them in class. And of course, what we want to do is prevent as much as possible, but this is in some ways unprecedented. But there's been NFL strikes and there's been MLB strikes, and so it's kind of interesting. I think it was back in 2011, the NFL had a strike, and when they returned, in 12 days of training camps amongst all the teams, there was 10 Achilles tendon tears. So it's one of those things where, okay, we can't make up all that time that we were inactive, or talking about a team sport like soccer or football. Those are whole different dynamics that are so random that we can't control if we're individually working out. We can't, as far as like tackling or, just connecting with a teammate and things like that, that's hard to practice out when you're in COVID. So our approach has been conditioning initially. There's strength training, there's some running and all that, and then we slowly work into drills and things like that, where it's more gradual, phased, and then working into full team activities at that point, to where hopefully we prevent as much as possible, and not, their acute and chronic loads of volume and intensities and all that are hopefully well managed to where we minimize some of that injury. But it's definitely more so than any other year. It needs to be far more calculated, I would say, because of how much time off we had.
Yeah. So for the students that are tuning in and all of you, glad to see you on here. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'll get to those next. So, but I thought maybe just to segue, tell us a little bit about the programs and the emphases that we have out of the KPE department, and maybe some of the examples of how those students are integrated or working with students here in the athletics program.
Great. Yeah. So we have 3 emphases, excuse me, in kinesiology: teaching, coaching, a traditional physical education track where the students seek teaching credentials. We have some here that have gone through our undergrad program and then onto our credential program. We have the exercise and sports science track. Students in that track are often interested in fitness and health industry type careers, adapted physical education, so working with people with special needs, nutrition, and then pre-physical therapy, pre-allied health is a track I oversee. And so I have students interested in physical therapy, physician assistant studies, occupational therapy. I have a few nursing, pre-nursing students. It's all pre because these require graduate degrees here. And dozens and dozens of students that have come through here and been accepted to highly ranked schools. And like you mentioned, we actually have some students that have come back with their doctorates and taught for us biomechanics and other classes like this, physiology of exercise, as well as allow our students to shadow them. So we have a pediatric physical therapist in town here, and she's allowed the students to shadow her as she goes through her rotations, whether that's home health care or other settings that she's in. And so that's really a critical part of the program, to have our own alumni back and investing in the undergraduate students, and they can really identify, because they were there just a few years ago, and now here they are with a doctorate or whatever degree that they've earned and practicing as a clinician.
That's great. What a wonderful network, I think, of graduates that can help, because we know that we're privileged to have students here for 3 or 4 or however many years. But we do also know they join a team, a network of alumni after, and so that's great. Well, I don't see any questions. Vanessa, I'm going to turn it back over to you, unless you see some that I don't see. You may have gotten some direct messages, but just appreciate the time we've had, Dave, to chat. And if we don't have any questions, then we'll see everybody next time.